Shalom, shalom. In today's video, we will be discussing part 9 of Safra Detznuita. With that being said, let us begin. If you're following along, you will find this section in book 11 of the Kabbalah Center edition. Safra Detznuita, the secret or concealed book. We're on page 583, and it says, "The imprints of the engravings look like a long snake, which extends this way and that, so the tail is at the head, and the head joins the shoulders. It passes, and it is wrathful. It guards and conceals. Once in 1,000 small days is providence revealed through its doings. The fin upon which the world is situated is in its lot. His head is broken in the waters of the great sea. You did break the heads of the sea serpents, Tananim, in the waters. There were 2, but one returned, for Tananim is spelt without yud, which is the mark of plurality. Even though it is spelled heads, it is singular, as it is written, and over the heads, Rashe, of the living creatures was the likeness of a firmament." It says Rashe with a yud, even though it was the head of a single creature. Here also about the sea serpent, even though it says heads, it really means the head of one serpent. Yehezkel 122. The imprints of the engravings look like a long snake, which extends this way and that. This will be the first thing that is addressed. What is this long snake that extends this way and that? In order for us to understand what the imprints of the engravings are, we first have to analyze why they said it looked like a long snake. And it gives us a clue. It says it extends this way and that way. The serpent is a reference to the Leviathan, which is an allusion to Tifereth, which is not only the tribe of Levi, but also associated with the Leviathan as revealed in the Zohar. And the secret is that Tifereth is called Israel. And Israel, when rearranged, creates Yesh, Yod, Shin, which is called the celestial substance in the Zohar. It says the righteous will inherit Yod and Shin. Similarly, it also says of the sages, the righteous in the world to come will inherit 310 worlds, which are the secret of the Yod, which is 10, and the Shin is 300. The remaining letters are Resh, Lamed, and Aleph, which is 231. And the secret of the 231 gates, which is the mystery of Israel, and the mystery of the Leviathan, and the secret of the serpent, which extended this way and that way. With that being established, let us analyze the imprint of the engravings. To source the imprints and engravings, we are going to go to Safra and see what it has to say regarding those 231 gates. It mentions in the Safra how he permuted them, weighed them, and transformed them. Aleph with them all, and all of them with Aleph. Bait with them all, and all of them with bait. They repeat in a cycle and exist in 231 gates. It comes out that all that is formed and all that is spoken emanates from one name. Regarding the 231 gates, we read in Sefer Emek Hamelech compiled by disciples of the Arizal. When mentioning the 231 gates, we learned in Safra Yetzirah, Aleph with every letter with Aleph. So this is in sequential order. The top sequence is simply Aleph to Tav. And the second sequence begins with Gimel, so Aleph, Gimel, then continues to Tav. And at the end of the sequence, begins with Beit, because Aleph does not repeat with itself. And in this way, it repeats Aleph with every letter with Aleph, until it's Aleph Tav. And then it does the same for Beit. Beit with every letter with Beit, as it mentioned. And after Tav, it's repeating the sequence. And in this new sequence, it's continuing as normal, except here we have Aleph, because we're in the sequence of Beit, but we don't see Beit, because it doesn't repeat with itself. Instead, it progresses to Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin, etc. It does the same with Gimel and Dalet, etc. What's important here is that these are Partsufim of Sefirot. So Aleph, this entire Partsuf, is the Partsuf of Kether. And Beit, this Partsuf, is the Partsuf of Hokmah. And Gimel is the Partsuf of Bina. And Dalet is the Partsuf of Da'ath. Hey is the Partsuf of Chesed. Vav is the Partsuf of Gevurah. Zain is the Partsuf of Tifereth. Chet is the Partsuf of Netzach. Tet is the Partsuf of Hod. Yod is the Partsuf of Yisod. Kaf is the Partsuf of Malkuth. And now that we're at Malkuth, it needs to be stated. The transition to Lamed, it says here, Achor Kether. The backside of Kether is Lamed. Similarly, Hokmah Achor. The backside of Hokmah is Mem. And here, the backside of Bina, Bina Achor, is Nun. And the backside of Da'as is Samek. The backside of Chesed is Ayin. The backside of Gevurah is Fei. Sadiq is the backside of Tifereth. And it makes a mention to note the gematria is equated with El Adonai. That, of course, being the value of Sadi and Zain. So, here we go on Kof, is the backside of Netzach. We have Resh as the backside of Hod. We have Shin as the backside of Yisod. And we have Tav as the backside of Malkuth. This is the 231 gates represented in a simplified way. Aleph is the front side of Kether, Beit is the front side of Hokmah, Gimel is the front side of Bina, Dalet is the front side of Da'ath, Hey is the front side of Chesed, Vav is the front side of Gevurah, Zain is the front side of Tifereth, Chet is the front side of Netzach, Tet is the front side of Hod, Yod is the front side of Yisod, Kaf is the front side of Malkuth, Lamed is the backside of Kether, Mem is the backside of Hokmah, Nun is the backside of Bina, Samek is the backside of Da'ath, Ayin is the backside of Chesed, Fei is the backside of Gevurah, Sadi is the backside of Tifereth, Kof is the backside of Netzach, Resh is the backside of Hod, Shin is the backside of Yisod, and Tav is the backside of Malkuth. The distinction needs to be made. There's a connection here that will be touched on later, but let us return to the engravings. Why does it mention that the engravings look like a long snake? This is because This entire Partsu theme, if it was to be written out linearly on top of each other, would create a coiling serpent. And similarly, this is the mystery of the twisting or coiled Leviathan. And it looks like this. So it said the engravings look like a long snake extending this way and that way. And this is with all of the letters on top of each other. Aleph with every letter with Aleph. Beit with every letter with Beit. Gimel with every letter with Gimel. Dalet. Hey. Vav. Zain. Chet. Tet. Yod. Kaf. Lamed. Mem. Nun. Samek. Ain, Fe, Sadi, Kof, Resh, Shin, Tav. So we have established the imprints of the engravings look like a long snake, which extends this way and that. It says here now, so the tail is at the head. Analyzing the 231 gates in a simplified form, we find the tail, which would be Malkuth, is at the head, which is connected to Kether. The basic of this principle is that this entire tree of the fronts will be in the Kether of the tree to the backsides. A practical example of this in reality is the tree of your face in the Kether of the tree of your body. And the head joins the shoulders. Here the 231 gates are demonstrated, with Malkuth linked to Kether. And it was explained in the section of Zohar called the 2 points. And the secret here is that these upper three, which are the Kether, Hokmah, and Bina, are concealed and are actually in the secret of a circular aspect that surround Malkuth. This is the mystery of the opening, or the wheels within the wheels. So it says that its head is at its shoulders. These being the Kether, Hokmah, Bina, and these being the lower seven of the backside tree. It passes and it is wrathful. It guards and conceals. Why does it guard? Because this is the secret of the 5 sturdy leaves that surround and guard. And the 5 sturdy leaves are none other than the 5 Partsufim. And these Partsufim, which guard, were created out of the 231 gates. Once in 1,000 small days, and 1,000 is the rung of Arik on Pin. And it was demonstrated that Bina, which is the secret of the Otiot, is the mystery of the 231 gates. This is the secret of Jacob went out of Bar-Sheba. Jacob being Zer Anpin in the secret of the kings, and one should not think that Bar-Sheba is a place, but one should understand that Bar is Bariah, and Sheba is 7. So here it states, once in 1,000, on the rung of 1,000, which is Arik on Pin. Small days is providence revealed through its doing. The fin upon which the world is situated is in its lot. And what is this fin? But this serpent by which has established the world, and is the secret of the heart spark and the constriction, which was every possibility accounted for. We read, "You did break the heads of the sea serpents in the waters." What does this mean? The 231 gates Aleph with every letter with Aleph, Beit with every letter with Beit, etc., when drawn in a circle, creates the great sea, and is the mystery of the donkey driver. He says, "My father was a great and mighty fish," the secret of the 231 gate Leviathan. He said he could swim the sea in a single instance, because when drawn in a circle is the sea. And the breaking of the heads here is referring to 7, and the 7 heads that were broken are the shattering of the vessels, which is what the 231 gates reveal. And it was explained the breaking of the heads are the shattering of the vessels. And in the gates, we see that there's a even sequence. The mystery of this, it states in Gate Aleph of Emek HaMelech, he tied the beginnings with the ends, that they would be Ein Sof, in reference to these gates. And here we find another even sequence in Hokmah. But when we find Bina's sequence when tying the beginnings with the ends, we find Tav falls off and the sequence breaks. And similarly, it begins to break more and more the further we progress along. And this is referred to as the shattering of the vessels. And the vessels broke. But the true reality is that this was all by design. And finally in Malkuth, everything becomes solidified because he tied the beginnings with the ends, and everything is solid now. It says, "He did break the heads of the sea serpents in the waters," and this has been established. Now it says, "There were 2, but 1 returned." For Tanaim is spelled without Yud, which is the mark of plural. What does this mean? 1 returned. 2 went down in the secret of the backs, which is a beta sequence, and the fronts, which is an alpha sequence. To understand this very simply, in the beginning were only the vessels, the original otiot, the original 22 letters. He took the back side of the sequence and the front side of the sequence and combined them together, that would create the worlds. This is the secret of when Israel arose in thought, which is when the 231 gates arose, all possibility. So, to understand this very simply, 2 went down. And to analyze what it means when it says only 1 returns, we will find the answer to this in another book, Ben Hashahem, or the Kabbalah of the Prophets. And here we can see the 231 gates being demonstrated, Aleph with Beit, Aleph with Gimel, Aleph with Dalet, and so on and so forth, all the way to Aleph with Tav. And this is in the sequence of the 231 gates, as was demonstrated, where the beta sequence would just simply be tacked on here. But here, 1 returns. And the secret of 1 returning is that the letters have now shifted. And instead of Aleph Beit, it's Beit Aleph. Instead of Aleph Gimel, it's Gimel Aleph. And so in this manner, 1 returns. Because Aleph with every letter and every letter with Aleph is every 2-letter combination. And then when you rotate them and 1 returns, all possibilities are accounted for in a 2-letter combination construct. So it says, it is singular. Even though it says heads, plural, it is singular. As is written, and over the heads of the living creature was the likeness of a firmament. And the living creatures are those that guard. And so it says Rashay with a Yud, even though it was the head of a single creature. Here also, about the sea serpent. Even though it says heads, it really means the head of 1 serpent. So we read, the imprints of the engravings look like a long snake, which extends this way and that, so the tail is at the head, and the head joins the shoulders. It passes and it is wrathful, it guards and conceals. Once in 1,000 small days is providence revealed through its doing. The fin upon which the world is situated is in its lot. Its head is broken in the waters of the great sea, as it is written, You did break the heads of the sea serpent in the waters. There were two, but one returned, for Tananim is spelt without yud, which is the mark of plural. Even though it spelled heads, it is singular, as is written, and over the heads, Hebrew Rashay, of the living creature, was the likeness of a firmament. It says Rashay with a yud, even though it was the head of a single creature. Here also, about the sea serpent, even though it says heads, it really means the head of one serpent. With that being said, that concludes the sod of verse 9. And here we have learned the mystery of Israel, the 231 gates, and the Leviathan. If you'd like to support, of course, like, comment, subscribe, share this content with friends, loved ones, or anyone you believe will benefit from these teachings. And of course, you can follow my Patreon. I'll leave a link in the description below. And I will also leave a link to a free book in the description below that brings one to the sod level of the Torah. With that being said, Shalom, Selah.